The Securities Investor Protection Corporation was chartered by Congress to combat fraud. True or false? How many say true? It's false. If it was designed to combat fraud, gosh, we wouldn't have Enron, WorldCom. Fraud is normal on Wall Street. It's built in. Nobody can prevent fraud, it seems like. What does the insurance do? The insurance is that if you hand the clerk $100,000 and you tell them to invest it in the market, instead of the clerk putting it, so to speak, into the teller, he sticks or she sticks it into her pocket and runs off to Mexico. So it protects you from theft. No more than that. Okay? It is normal for your investments to go up and down. True? My mother doesn't believe that. She says if it goes down, then it's not an investment. There's a certain amount of logic to that. Okay? And so what happens to that kind of an individual when they put money into equities or into the stock market? They're great when it goes up, but what are they going to do when it goes down? They're going to sell. When are they going to buy again? When it gets all the way up here, then they're going to buy. And then what's going to happen? Boom. Okay? And then they're going to say, oh my God, that stock market. So before you go in the stock market, you really have to believe that things go up and down. And you need to relate that to the financial advisor so they can kind of adjust the risk. It's also one of the reasons why I would never invest my money with anybody under 30. Why?
For experience.
Exactly. They haven't really experienced loss. And you have to experience that. So, it's part of the game. Declining interest rates make bond funds appreciate in value. True. It works the opposite of what you always have to think a little bit on this. Okay, what are bonds paying today? 1-year treasury. Kirk? Just approximate.
1.25.
Is it actually more than one?
I think it's 1.
Yeah? Okay. 1-year treasury, about 1%. Do you think interest rates are going to go up? What's going to happen to that treasury? It's down in value. How many in here own bonds? Bond fund? Okay, you just heard it from everybody. Your bond values are going to go down.
So, if you sell before,
huh?
But if you sell before.
Before it goes down, so you know you can predict when the interest rates are going to go up or down?
You guys take your class before.
There was a group called Long-Term Capital. You ever heard of that group? They had 4 Nobel Prize winners, PhDs, and they ran this hedge fund. And they, for many years, were making anywhere from 15 to 35% per year. And what they would do is all based on predicting the way interest rates were going to go. Well, about 5 years ago, in fact, it was prior to 2008, I'm thinking it's somewhere around 2002, that was the first hedge fund that literally had to be bailed out by the U.S. government because they predicted wrong. Billions of dollars were lost. There isn't anybody who can tell you where interest rates are going and when. I'm of the opinion, as you are, that I think inflation is going to go up. But I would have already thought it would have already gone up from 2008 because there's so much money into the system. But it hasn't happened yet. and nobody can predict when and by how much. Number 8, if you owe a lot of money at death or are concerned with fraudulent claims at the time of death, you're probably better off going through probate and not having a living trust. True or false? It's true. Yeah, this is a blatant commercial. And the reason why I put this question in here is that we do 8 weeks on estate planning. And if you can see from the schedule, we have It's Your Estate of many locations. We're going to do 8 weeks on estate planning here at the Susie Q in September. So we'll get you on a mailing list or an email list, or you'll see a poster or whatever, but we'll do 8 weeks on estate planning, just kind of like what we do here on money. But let's answer the question, and that is, first of all, if you have an immense amount of debts, let's say this is a real situation, was an individual, had about a $500,000 estate. She had about $600,000 worth of debt. She had cancer for about the last 8 years of her life. Lived in the Bakersfield area. Her mother worked as a volunteer for the Florence Sylvester Senior Center. And she came into my office and said, "Oh my gosh, my daughter's really ill and she's going to die, but what's really scary is I have to go through probate." The probate was almost worse than her daughter dying. And so we sat down a little bit and started talking, and everything else. And that's when she said that the estate had more debts in it than it had value. Well, when you go through probate, there's a formal process to give notice to all your creditors. And they have a certain window of time to step forward and submit their claims to the probate court. Well, there was only one company that submitted their claim, and that was the Penny's credit card for $300. Went through probate, probate closed, Mom got the rest of the money. And she was protected from there on in. If she would have had a living trust, could the creditors go back at the trustee 2 years from the date of death? 3 years? 4 years? 5 years? Absolutely. There's no statute of limitations. So sometimes it's better just to go through probate or to go through that probate process to give creditors notice.
The key word is owe.
If you owe a lot of debt, okay? 2 is that if you think you're going to have fraudulent claims, this is kind of like the cop on the beat who just works in the poverty areas of a city. If you ever talk to a cop who just works with gangs and everything else, they have a pretty warped view of the world. It's just because of the nature of the work that they do every day. Well, there's a judge here in Orange County that sits on the probate court that says, I would never have a living trust. Because what do you think that judge sees every single day? Fraudulent claims on the estate to the trustee. Is the trust private document? No, it's totally private. And it doesn't come out until all the family members are become aware of it. And so if you put a trustee in there who's somewhat fraudulent, and Bert kind of hinted on that, then you have to take him to court. And so, sometimes you're better off just getting into court first. So if you have by the way, all of us have dysfunctional families, but if you have a totally dysfunctional family, then you may well get in front of a judge early, because the judge is going to control the legal fees, is going to control what gets presented, and it probably is cheaper and more efficient if it's totally dysfunctional. So it's not always wise to have a living trust. Most times, though, it is. Like 95% for us, most times a living trust is beneficial. So I just wanted to give you a little bit on the other side. And I wanted to make sure you didn't get that question correct. Money market funds lend out their money for 90 days. True. Most of the money in a money market fund gets electronically sent to another bank just for the day to collect a little bit of interest. What do money markets pay today? Yeah, it's not very much money. Why do we have money market funds? Why should you use a money market fund?
Liquidity.
Good.
Low risk,
Yeah.
confidence.
A place to park your money while you're trying to figure out what to do. It's a wonderful spot for that. For generally investment purposes, nah. Okay? Not enough interest. But for a place to park, calm down, try to figure out what's going on, it's a wonderful thing to have. And it's fairly safe. People are very rational when it comes to their money. How many say true? Well, of course. Sharon, do you think Bert's rational with his money? No. Oh. Yeah, I generally don't think they are. You know, as a whole, there might be an exception to of one or two, but I don't think you're it, Bert. We all have our quirks when it comes to money. And, you know, where do we teach or where do we learn how to deal with money? You know, from family, from our circumstances that we grew up with. If I talk to somebody in the Depression who grew up in the Depression, I don't think they can ever have enough money to feel secure about money. It's just that they've gone through something horrific. You know, I'm pretty cheap, but I'm also fairly irrational too, in the sense that I will go 1 or 2, 3 miles out of the way to get a penny or two cheaper gas. Or what's really irrational is I'm at the store and I want to buy something and I know I have a coupon at home for that product and I can't buy it. And it's really silly because the next time I'll forget, the coupon will be out of date, you know, that type of thing. So we all have irrational moments or irrational things that we do with money. And what does Wall Street want? They don't want us to be rational. Okay? So there's nothing out there that, you know, that kind of helps us. Plus, in many families, it's very difficult to discuss money. You know, here I thought, you know, growing up, Michael's sitting here, and I said, you know, guys, we had a workshop last week, and we were driving on the way home, and I said to him, I said, God, wasn't I open about money? I wasn't just a great parent when it came to money and finances. He goes, I never heard you speak about money once. So the self-image, you know, kind of thing is important as well. But, you know, and all of us have different, you know, growing up, one of the neighbor's kids came over and they said, gosh, I got $1 increase in my allowance. And the parent grabbed him, pulled him aside and said, we don't talk about our money with other families. You know? So we all have weird things that we do as far as money is concerned.